friends in conversation have used the words "you people" to you, meaning your whole race? Take a step back if this has happened to you. Take a step back if this has happened to you. You've done something well, and you've been congratulated because you're a credit to your race. Your race has been brought up in a job interview. Someone's made fun of you at school because of the color of your skin.
I ended up being the last one, and it feels weird because I would think that someone who is of a more minority than I am, like the Indian lady, would be behind me.
You know, Shima, we interviewed you 5 years ago. 5 years on, what's your experience? Has our racial harmony improved, changed in some way?
I think it has been the same. These are microaggressions we're talking about. It would take longer than 5 years. If anything, the only difference is that I've grown more indifferent to these stereotypes or microaggressions.
You've grown more indifferent?
Yes,
Why?
as compared to when I did the walk.
Why?
I suppose when you see that change isn't happening, you would have to do something with yourself. So you hear these things every day and you feel affected by it. The only way to move forward is just to, like, you know what, it's just going to keep happening, so just keep moving forward. At least, I guess we did start the conversation, which is a good thing. And now you see that people are talking about it more because of social media.
I think we're having more conversations around it. I think people are being more aware about how things are happening. But honestly, it's always been the same. As Shima mentioned, microaggressions have always existed. But it took a viral video of someone being so violently and explicitly racist for us to start looking inwards. And I think that that becomes upsetting. That becomes also like, you know, people have been talking about it. Why do we need something so violent to validate minority voices and all this kind of stuff?
Santosh, do you think the minority voice hasn't been validated? Do you feel the same way?
Yes, I feel the same way. I feel like I'm suppressed and repressed, and just in the recent months, there is an increased state of anxiety and stress within my system. When I go out of my house, I am in a state of hypervigilance and alert because of the stories that I'm hearing from my other minority friends. There are Indians who go on the MRT train, they take a seat, and then members of the other race just stand up and go away, move away. I have friends who have been denied the opportunity to rent a place because the landlord thinks that they're going to cook curry in the home and it's going to smell the entire place. So hearing stories of microaggressions and even macroaggressions has just created this sense of anxiety, and it's actually triggered the trauma that was already existent for so many years.
If you look at the data, it's very clear that there are few groups which are more aware about racism. Those who are younger, minorities, those who are better educated. And so when they see something which, maybe previously something would have been dismissed as not being racist, but today maybe people look at it and say, well, it doesn't have to be something so in your face to be categorized racism. Something which is casual but actually does hurt individuals can also be racism. So I think people are more willing to talk about it and look at things and say that's racism.
I believe that majority privilege exists. I mean, that's why we call it Chinese privilege, with more than 70% of the population being Chinese. But I think this word privilege, everyone holds this as such a burden and guilt and all that also. I'm a Chinese man, so what do I do? Offer allyship. There are multiple places out there. Validate your friends' voices. Each time you hear someone else saying that, hey, this story is not true, or they've got mental health issues and whatnot also, be like, no, this is his lived experience, his or their lived experience, and what they do with it also. I mean, these stories come from a place of truth and a place of past traumas as well. And I think it is firstly our responsibility to educate yourself. There are resources out there, and also listen to the stories.
I do agree with the term Chinese privilege, but I can see why some people might feel defensive about it because they don't want to be seen as a bad person. But what a Chinese person can do is to stand up for a friend, for example. But I do agree with what Dr. Daniel Goh said, which is you have to be careful with what you say because it closes off conversation. So, for example, if someone said, my Indian friend shared on my Minority Voices that a taxi driver said, "You're pretty for an Indian." And a Chinese commenter was like, "Oh, she's just bragging that she's pretty and fair-skinned." And it took me to kind of explain it to her and give her the benefit of the doubt and be gentle in the way I explain, instead of just throwing accusations. But that said, I feel that other than these microaggressions, bigger issues like housing, discrimination against Indian renters, and discrimination in jobs, even like giving tuition and not wanting an Indian person to teach their kids, it's very widespread. So we do what we can in sharing stories and humanizing people because after all, we have Indian and Malay friends.